I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. And you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so the fake news media machine is in full tilt right now. It's just going all out, and it just got filled up this past weekend. Donald Trump did an interview with NBC's Kristen Welker on Meet the Press, and the fake news is just going live. It's just exploding right now. It's just coming out of the woodworks, and it's all over the place because sometimes we know Donald Trump, you know, he likes to talk over people, and what the news media likes to do is while Donald Trump is speaking over people, like Kristen Welker will ask a question, and then Donald Trump continues speaking, and then what they do is they'll just take her question and then what Donald Trump said after that and then throw that together as if that's a coherent sentence or if that's a coherent thought or argument or whatever they do. But they love to do this, folks, and it's absurd because it's easily debunked, as a matter of fact. Let's get into this. All right, so I've got a bunch of clips to show you guys from the actual interview. You know, I always bring the receipts or whatever, but you know me. I love to start off from the basis of all news, which is the actual published news, the written news, if you will. So we're going to start there, and then we'll get into the clips. But let's see how the AP decided to report on this. Check this out, y'all. Trump, in a new interview, says he doesn't know if he backs due process rights. So that headline is absurd. Just look at that. Doesn't know if he backs due process rights. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I saw that headline and I'm like, how the hell did they derive that from that interview? Like, where's the disconnect here? So it's like, is this misspeak or, you know, are they just intentionally lying? You know, it seems like they're just intentionally lying because why? They can get away with it, obviously. But, you know, my next video, we're going to go into that a little bit deeper. But let's go ahead and get into this. And then we're going to break down these clips right quick. Check this out, y'all. President Donald Trump is circumspect about his duties to uphold due process rights laid out in the Constitution, saying in a new interview that he doesn't know whether U.S. citizens and non-citizens alike deserve that guarantee. Oh, he's circumspect, is he? Wary about... No, he's not, as a matter of fact. But... you know, they had to throw in the U.S. citizens part. That makes this just a blatant lie, just outright. You can't, there's no other way around it. Then they are intentionally lying on purpose for a specific reason just to manipulate you because they don't think you're going to go watch the freaking interview, I guess. But let's finish this out and then we'll debunk. He also said he does not think military force will be needed to make Canada the 51st state and played down the possibility he would look to run for a third term in the White House. No, he pretty much unequivocally said no, as a matter of fact. And about Canada, yeah, he doesn't think there's going to be military force because he's not serious about making Canada the 51st state. What that is in reference to is something totally different, but we'll get into that. Let's go ahead and run that first clip right quick. Let's talk about the due process issue right fast.
The Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Okay, so you can see how they twist and turn reality to fit their narrative. Trump was clearly talking about non-citizens. Of course, citizens get their rights, due process rights, when they commit crimes. But that's the thing. Think about this for a second. Okay, so let's break this down right quick. these people that come into the country illegally, right? There is a process that they are due to come into the country legally. They decided to circumvent that process. Does the Constitution say, because they circumvented that process, that we must give them the same process on their way out? No, it does not. Under our jurisdiction, go read the Constitution if you don't believe me. These people just love to take these clips, manipulate reality so they can say Trump is evil, Trump is bad, Orange Man Hitler, and all this other nonsense. And they keep saying, oh, the Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision said this. Well, it's up to interpretation because of the language used by the Supreme Court. And as a matter of fact, Donald Trump expounds upon this. Check this out.
So let's talk about this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have
order?
the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, you know, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that.
Okay, and this is what's happening with this. The corporate press, they just take what they want from that decision and run with that narrative. Oh, they told Donald Trump to facilitate his return. Well, they said help facilitate his return, but they also said in there, as I've said thousands of times before, once again, folks, this is a story that won't die. I told you it's going to stick around for a while. But they said they cannot compel the administration to force El Salvador to return this guy back to the United States. They can't do it. They know they can't do it. They have no legal jurisdiction. They have no authority to do so. But the corporate press, they just want to run with this narrative. Oh, it was a rare 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court. Yeah, shut your mouths, read the entire opinion, and then let's talk. And you'll see that you're either ignorant, you haven't read the entire decision, or you're just manipulating the population. But, you know, they continue. Let's dive in a little bit further onto this. Check this out, y'all.
Do you see dissent as an essential part of democracy?
It's a part of democracy. It is. You're
Is
always
it an
going to have
important
dissent.
part of democracy?
Yeah, you're always going to have, Kristen, you're always going to have dissent. There's nothing you're going to do about that. Am I going to get 100% unified? It would be a strange place. I can't even imagine it where 100%. Look, you have people that are good people. Mm-hmm. They're very smart people. And they honestly believe we should have open borders and the entire world should be allowed to pour into our country. I think it's a 95-5 issue, but they believe it. They're not even bad people. Some of them are bad. You have people that honestly believe that men should be allowed to play in women's sports. Some of these people, I don't know any. I haven't been able to find any, but they exist. They say it's an 80-20 issue. I don't believe that. I think it's a 97-3 issue.
Do you think people should have the right to criticize you without fear of reprisal?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. That I do.
And how do you square
and I think that happens.
How do you square that with the fact that you have passed these executive orders asking the Attorney General to look into some of the people who've criticized you, who've been harshest against you?
I have been investigated more than any person in the history of the United States of America. I've been investigated more than the late, great, as I say at my rallies, Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone was a nasty man. He was the highest level gangster. And I have been investigated more than Al Capone, more than anybody. These people are evil people, and I won. And I'll tell you what, all I want to happen is for the Department of Justice and the FBI. Pam is great and Cash is great. I think they're two great people, but they're their own people. They want to do a fantastic job. And all I want to do and all I want to ask for is that they be allowed to do their job. I'm not telling them to do anything, and I believe I have the right to do it. I'm, in theory, the top law enforcement officer as the president. We went over this once before, and it turned out I was right. But I'm not looking to use that. We have two great people, and we have many, many incredible people under them, and I just want them to do their job and do it well.
See, and this is something else that the corporate press does that I really can't freaking stand. These people are freaking delusional, right? Trump signed executive orders, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? Who cares about that? Talking about going after his political opponents. Well, guess what? These people have, we found evidence that they've committed a crime. That is right. They committed a crime. Now he's talking about going after Jack Smith and all this other stuff, right? Because those investigations into Donald Trump were not legal. They were not where they're supposed to be. He's looking into that to see if there was any malfeasance. He's not going after them because they're political rivals. He's making sure that the investigations were on the up and up. That's what their job is supposed to be. That's what the DOJ is supposed to do. Donald Trump feels that there was a lot of criminal activity going on from the administration during Biden's administration, and he wants to make sure everything was on the up and up. That's it. But the way they frame it is, he's going after them politically instead of mentioning the crimes that they're being investigated for. This is what the corporate press does. They lie, they manipulate just about everything. Let's keep going.
But let me give you some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down, some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
But sir, you campaigned,
you
campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When
one.
You say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those
even mortgage rates?
different items I just
Mortgage
mentioned?
rates are going down despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, $35. You can have 2, 3, 4 and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look.
How soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. Very simple.
Okay, so I guess she thinks she's got him on this because of these tariffs or whatever. Well, let's break this down right quick. Okay, so Donald Trump on the campaign trail said he was going to get energy under control, grocery prices down. They can't say that grocery prices are up because that is not true, right? And she's talking about, well, what about relief and all this other stuff? Well, hang on. Like, how often do you buy a freaking stroller? How often do you buy Christmas gifts? Once a year. How often do you buy these luxury items versus what Donald Trump is actually bringing down? This is all absurd. They're picking and choosing little bitty things that have gone up because of the tariffs and saying, look, prices have gone up. All prices all the way across the board. People are struggling. When actually Donald Trump has brought down energy costs. He's brought down the grocery prices some freaking how. Like, I don't know how the grocery prices have came down. It kind of doesn't make much sense to me. But, you know, there's a lot that goes into this, right? a whole lot that goes into this, and he's taking credit for it, so it is what it is. But I understand the gas prices, I understand the energy prices, the oil, all that nonsense. Those prices, everyday necessities, are coming down for folks, and the corporate press, they're hung up on these few items, of these luxury items that are going up because of the tariffs. Well, what Donald Trump says is, buy American, for crying out loud. Why do we need these luxury items? And I know that sounds harsh. The way he's saying it sounds bad, right? You don't need 30. You don't need $30, right? You only need 3. Well, he's right about that, but it's like, come on, Trump, what are you talking about right here with this? But regardless, outside of that, sure, some of the prices for some ancillary stuff might go up, but what he did was bring down our energy costs, our everyday prices, groceries, gas, all that good stuff. And the corporate press, they cannot give him a win on this. Just absolutely can't give him a win on this one, because they can pick and choose whatever the hell they want and say, oh, this price went up. And how do you combat that, right? Like, what Donald Trump is trying to do is long term. It's not going to fix it immediately. He also said he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Did anybody actually take him seriously? No, nobody actually. Like, when Donald Trump says, I'm going to bring grocery prices down on day 1, does anybody take that seriously as to think that that's even possible? No. That is a statement. It's not a fact statement. It is a statement that he is going to do everything he can to bring grocery prices down starting day 1. It doesn't mean the grocery prices are going to come down on day 1. These people conflate all kind of different ideas as partly because of Trump. To be honest with you, let's be fair here. Donald Trump does speak circuitously sometimes, right? And sometimes kind of confusingly. You have to listen to everything that he's talking about in the broader context. And the corporate press, once again, they love to do this. They'll take something he says out of the context of the bigger picture and say, well, he said this. Well, it sounds bad when you say he doesn't care about due process rights. It sounds terrible when you say that. But you look at the broader context of the whole conversation, and we realize that, okay, he was talking about non-citizens. They don't get the same due process rights that we get, as a matter of fact, because they're not under our jurisdiction, for crying out loud. They came into the country illegally. But once again, like I said, it's just insane to think, right? There is a process that these people can enter our country legally. They circumvent that process, and then Democrats expect us to give them the process on their way out. Like, are you kidding me here? Like, most of these people, they're not going to trial, right? They're not going to criminal court or doing anything. They don't have any case to plead. They came into the country illegally, and they are getting deported. That is it. Once again, we can look this up all day long. I've done it on this channel. We've gone over the laws about this. And you don't get a hearing. You don't get a freaking trial when you get deported. You just get deported. Once again, the only time you get some sort of a trial is if you're claiming asylum, or if you have a visa that you let expire. Then, blah, 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 blah. There's immigration courts for all of that stuff. But if you just enter the country illegally, you don't get a trial. I'm sorry. That is not due process. That is not the due process as to what you're thinking it is, right? You don't go to court. You don't get a lawyer. You don't get none of that stuff. You just get kicked out. That is how it's always been, folks. It has always been this way. I don't know when these people thought that all of a sudden we give court cases to all of these people when they get deported. That is not how immigration court works. It's just not how it works. But Trump did kind of expound upon the state of the Democratic Party currently. Check this out.
And one Democrat, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. And Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people.
Yeah, that's just freaking hilarious if you ask me. Biden has been the worst thing to old people. That's just hilarious. I just love how Trump riffs like that. He just throws that comedy in there, and it makes it a complete package, if you will. But, you know, Trump has his issues, y'all. Like, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, have complete adoration for Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump makes mistakes. I was reading an article earlier, and I'm kind of on the fence about this, but I'm kind of leaning toward non-intervention. But, okay, so check this out, right? Donald Trump asked the Mexican president if she wanted some U.S. military assistance with the cartels. Now, when I first saw this headline, I'm like, no, what are we doing, Trump? Let's not do this. That's freaking stupid. But I thought about it a little bit. You know, these cartels do affect the United States, and those cartels do operate within the United States. So I was like, well, maybe that's not such a bad idea, but she turned it down anyway. She doesn't want to get killed. That's why. I wouldn't either. But, you know, if she did get the assistance from the United States military, she wouldn't have to worry about those damn cartels ever again. Like Donald Trump labeling them as terrorist organizations, right? That gives him the ability to drone strike these people into oblivion. It does. Like, which is fascinating, right? Because how would that look? How would that look? Drone striking into Mexican territory without their authority. Right? She doesn't want the help, but she could get the help. We could send commandos, you know, commando raids all over the damn place. Get rid of these cartels. But, you know, that's the question. Are these cartels too entrenched into the Mexican government to be able to root them out with the U.S. military? That is the question, folks. And I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I have no freaking clue. But, you know, the cartels, they are a problem for us as well. That's why I think I would get on the side of that and you know, kind of lean toward, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, just because of how they operate with impunity, or they were operating with impunity across our southern border under the Biden administration. They smuggle in all kinds of drugs, fentanyl and all that stuff. That's a scourge that needs to be rooted out. And I read that article all the way out, and they were lamenting. They actually, like, the corporate press was lamenting the fact that Donald Trump was using tariffs as a bludgeon to get Mexico to do something about their northern border, our southern border. Yeah, the way they phrased it, it's absurd what the corporate press does these days, y'all. They just can't report the news. They have to report their worldview, for crying out loud, and how they see things. It's like, no, just give us the facts and that's it. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of the corporate news just manipulating anything and everything that they want to. It's absurd, y'all. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.